All right, so we were able to create a new website, right? But we're not receiving anything here, right? Because the retrieval that is going out to the server, right, is coming back as empty because it's not finding this ID for the user. It's looking at the hard-coded array of websites, and it doesn't find the user with this bogus ID, right? It's still using the hard-coded array, right? So let's implement that now. Let's see. We did have a find all websites for user, right? Which is it's implemented here. We have the ID of the user. There it is. Request params user ID. But we don't want to do this, right? So let's comment that out. Instead, we want to go out to the model, right? We do need the ID of the user, and what we'd like to be able to do is use a user model that has a function, presumably the same name. But it takes as argument the ID of the user, right? And it responds with gets back the list of websites for that particular user from the model. Yes, right? And then we just send it back to the client, right? We can say response send back the list of websites. List of websites. Now this list of websites is not this websites, right? It's a local variable. It's a local variable that is being passed to us from the data model. Okay. All right. So let's implement this. Let's go to the server, to the model implementation, and declare a new API for this. So website model dot find websites for user, and implement it here. And the implementation is trivial, right? We get the user ID. We just need to use a finder, right? We just have to say website model, right? Find. And notice that it's find, right? Because we know it's going to be a collection. There's more than one. So we're not going to use find by ID. We're not going to use find one. We're just going to use the plain old find. So which one? Which one is it's the one in the ones that have a website whose user is equal to user ID. That's it, right? Just find me all the website objects in the collection that match this criteria. And that should return, that one website that we just created. So let's restart the server, right? If we come back and refresh, it didn't work. What? Reference user model is not defined. User model. User model? User model. User model. Why did I use user model? Sorry. Website model. Thank you. Let's restart. There it is. That's my site, right? And I can create any number of websites. Create, and it comes back. And now, but those are now being stored in the database as opposed to in the array, right? So we're no longer using the array for that purpose, and we would have to obviously refactor all the other ones as well. The edit, right? The removal, all those, right? But notice that it's coming back. It's coming back. These are the arrays. Notice the user. See the user? The user is coming back on just the ID. Okay? So we don't have access to the user ID, and that's fine. Perhaps we don't need that here, right? To use the actual user, and it just has a reference to it, but there's no way that we could actually access the user unless we go and fetch that from the database again, right? But we could from the model, right? When we are retrieving the user, right? We could tell it to populate, right? A particular field, right? A particular field, and that has a reference to something else, right? So for instance, as we retrieve these, right? Populate the following field, right? Underscore user, which typically the underscore user will be only the ID, right? But we're telling it, hey, treat it as a reference and go and fetch me that object, right? And insert it as part of the response, right? For this to work, you need to do an exec. Exec basically, once you do a find all by itself just automatically executes. But if you can provide all sorts of filters here to do sorting, you can do max, min, and all sorts of aggregate functions, and you can put them one after another, right? And so to indicate that you should execute all those commands, then you need to add an exec at the very end. If we restart and we go back to the websites, notice that now the underscore user, right, is no longer just the ID, right? It's an actually embedded object. Yes.
How does it know where to find where to look for?
You have to tell it the field. You have to tell it the field.
But that's just an ID in the database. So how does it know to go to the user selection and find out?
Oh, because when we declare the schema, right? When we declare the schema, we told it that it's a undergraduate user model, right? And the undergraduate is declared elsewhere, right? That it knows that it has the schema, it has all these other things, right? Now it might be that that we might not need everything, right? Notice that it's fairly expensive, especially if the user has other sophisticated, schema and other embedded objects and arrays and a bunch of other things, right? So we might just want certain things, right? Maybe we want just a username, right? And you can specify that as well. You can say, yes, populated, but I don't want everything, right? Only return to me the username, right? Or certain things, and you can put here space separated. You can put all the fields that you want populated, right? So if we rerun this and do the query, you can see that the user object is in there, and it populated everything. Wait, what? Wait, maybe I have is it username maybe? Users, no. All right, maybe I have the syntax wrong. Anyway, I'll look into it. You can specify the path that you want to populate exactly. All right. Or you can say, give me everything except these. Right? And again, this is the closest you'll ever get, right, to a join. Right. Also, obviously, it would be more complex if you want to be able to join the user with the website, then the website with a page, and then the page with it. Right. So older versions of Mongoose only allow you to go down a certain number of levels. Right. So you can't just keep going and populate further and further and further. All right. All right. So I'm going to leave it here.